Views and opinions of any of the guests of After Hours AM are not necessarily the views and opinions of After Hours AM, its hosts, its staff, or any of its affiliates.
Welcome to the After Hours program.
Are you ready?
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Now broadcasting live from the After Hours AM studio, Joel Sturgis and Eric Olsen.
Good evening and welcome to this edition of After Hours AM, the Criminal Code. Everybody, I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, and right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
hey guys, how's it going?
great, good to be back.
It is good to be back, isn't it? I know, the weather and this and that, and just going absolutely crazy. I got a little bit of news before we kick everything off. I am now the announcer for WGW Pro Wrestling. So come on over, come on down February 2nd. Join us for the festivities for WGW's event, All for the Glory. And if you want to get some tickets or whatnots, hit me up. That's afterhoursam@gmail.com. Afterhoursam@gmail.com. Too much info to include in here in 10 seconds. But actually next week, the 24th, Thursday, Eric, we're having pro wrestlers join us on air for the first hour.
We really?
Yeah, brother. They're coming on. And so they're going to be coming
amazing.
on. So we're
Check
going to
this out. How coincidental and odd is this? So my mother's finally out of the hospital.
She's a pro wrestler.
She is a pro wrestler. No, she's at a rehab place now. So they have these tiny little rooms when they're doing all their heavy therapy and moving in and out. She's actually doing pretty well. I should add, she's doing pretty well.
All right.
Better than people thought she would. So her roommate is 92-year-old woman who has a broken leg, and that's the only reason she's in there. And there's nothing
Poor
else
thing.
wrong with her. I mean, really. And she was sitting watching a supernatural marathon all day today. I said, oh, by the way, Rosemary, that's our favorite show. Although these, of course, are repeats. These are not new episodes.
Did you let her know that they're old, they're not new?
I said,
Oh,
these
okay.
are old. You know,
All right,
like
just
you,
so she knew.
Like you, these are old.
Like you, these are old and outdated. So, you know.
The last episode I caught before my mother was hauled off once again to therapy to be beaten upon and stretched and prodded and made to speak was an episode about professional wrestlers.
See, you know, it's really professional wrestling. They do it for a great cause. It's always charity related, these shows that they do. And that's really important to me. And that's why I got on board. A lot of it's anti-bullying and things like that, which really goes a long way. And they do that really out of the goodness of their heart. And they really get the word out there about anti-bullying. And I think this one has to do with those mental health awareness. So it's always something cool like that. It's always a charity that it is helping out. And so again, join me February 2nd and the guys from WGW Wrestling over there in Hibbing, Minnesota. And if you're interested in going, hit me up at afterhoursam@gmail.com. It'll give you all the information of how to get tickets. And I'm sure next week when we talk to the guys from WGW, they're going to let us all know they're going to give us the smackdown and how to get the tickets.
Holy cats. One caveat, one thing you need to keep an eye out for, Joel. This particular band of professional wrestlers had sold their souls to the devil.
Oh, not these guys. These guys did not do that quite yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. I think I'd be entertaining the idea. You know, why not? Why not? So anyhow, how are you doing, Dr. Cole?
I am doing great. We're finally getting some rain out here, which I love.
Good.
I'm doing great. Things are good.
Good. Sounds good. And I know we got a lot of weird things to talk about tonight. But they found that Jamie Kloss out of Wisconsin, guys. They found her alive.
I know. Well, I guess
She
escaped.
escaped.
Right?
Yeah, she escaped. She ran out of there, and she saved herself.
That is amazing. And I mean, hats off to her and to the people that acted so quickly. Did you see that? Like
Yeah.
the person she ran up to, the neighbor, like they knew who she was right away, even though she was 70 miles from home and it had been almost 3 months.
Wow, in Wisconsin, or nationwide for that matter, how do you not know who this girl is? You know, she'd been all over the news for the last, 90 days?
Nonetheless, that was a wondrous thing, and we're very
It was, but get this, though. The guy, the perpetrator, right, that went in there and did the deed here, I guess he used extraordinary tactics, they said, to evade him, to not leave any kind of DNA evidence.
I am not happy about that. So what is that going to do? Does that impact the case at all?
No, he admitted to doing it. Dr. Cole, are you still with us, or did you take off? Oh, well, yeah, well, we'll just talk amongst ourselves, I guess, Eric.
You were saying she's got a storm there.
She does.
In her
She does
her
have
neck
a
of
storm.
woods.
Let me reconnect, but we will talk amongst ourselves about this case. But anyhow, she had been taken, of course, quite a while ago now. And he was holding her captive really not that far away from the scene. And she managed to get herself free from him. And yeah, I was like, well, what? It was like 70 miles or whatever away from the scene, my mistake. And she got herself free and went to somebody and said, hey, I need help. And by she's been gone since October 15th. So, I mean, this is amazing. I didn't think anyone really thought she was still alive, to be honest.
I think it's an amazing story. It's kind of like although much shorter time period, thank goodness, to the story, the captive story right here in Cleveland, where the guy had, 3 girls? He had 3 girls.
How long? How long did he have them?
Years.
That's what I was going to say. Wasn't that many years?
And a grandkid.
Yeah, and a grandkid.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Cole,
back.
we must have lost you somewhere in the mix. What do you think about this Jamie Kloss case? I mean, isn't this amazing?
I'm freaked out, honestly, because the kid that kidnapped her was only 21.
Right.
Is that not weirding anyone else out?
It's weird to me.
Totally weirds me out. He found her or spotted her getting on the school bus.
I know, right?
Oh, that just makes my
That
teeth
is
hurt.
so creepy.
Well, and he shaved his hair. Did you see that?
Yeah,
so that he
to
would
avoid
leave DNA.
I know. That is an unusually smart criminal.
Well, for 21 years
That's
old,
what I'm saying.
It's an extremely adult, organized, plotted crime. It is so rare. I mean, there's no profiler anywhere that would have said that this person is, below, say, 25. No way.
Yeah, but then you see him, right, where they have on the video. He seems like a nice, normal person. I mean, just his outward appearance.
Agreed. I bet he's articulate, too.
Yeah, I mean, he almost seems calm, though. Weirdly calm, talking about the crime.
So what is his deal? Why did he do this?
I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, it is a really good question because at that age, I mean, yes, there's still a big age gap. Don't get me wrong, 13 and 21, but like a younger looking 21-year-old might even be able to coerce, say, a younger person into, say, dating them.
Yeah.
Of their own volition at that age. So it's so weird. Like, obviously he had something about keeping someone captive.
He had a thing for it. That was his bag, I guess. He wanted to keep someone captive.
And killing her parents.
I know. Right in front of her. The mother right in front of her.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
Oh, and then, he'd have people to his home and he'd turn the radio up in his room.
And he put weights in boxes around the bed. And I would have been terrified. Like normally I'd say if you have a chance to escape, do it. But she watched her parents be killed.
I know. So she knows the guy would kill with impunity.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
The only thing missing is it puts the lotion on skin or gets the hose again.
No kidding. And I'd be like, can I at least have a cute dog? Something?
Precious. He's going to get it, Precious. Wow.
No, I was so shocked. I mean, I wasn't necessarily shocked that she was found alive, only because there have been a lot of like sex trafficking things and stuff too.
Yeah.
Lately, but the fact that it was a 21-year, I still can't even.
Well,
So, Clarissa, our
yeah.
world famous
World famous. At least
forensic
blog
psychologist, what is the basic psychology behind keeping captives? What does that mean? What purpose does that serve for people?
Well, it's twofold, right? So they're going to have some sadism, obviously, right? You know, they want a person kept kind of as a slave to do what they want. So they're going to be higher on sadism. But at the same time, I have never, ever talked to or read about someone that keeps captives that don't become very attached to the people that they kidnap.
Okay.
So
Like
yeah,
a
so
reverse,
reverse Stockholm,
reverse Stockholm syndrome.
like Ariel Castro.
Yeah.
And he's not the only one, but he left in his will. So Ariel Castro, just to keep, to put it out there, Ariel Castro had his own children. Okay. So but in his will that he wrote out, he was leaving his house and all of his possessions to the girls he kept captive.
That's weird.
Not his family.
That's weird.
Yeah.
No. If I was his captive, I would not want the house.
No kidding.
No, I'm good. You can keep that place.
Oh my God! But that just shows you the level of and the reason that they even escaped from Ariel Castro's house is because he started to trust them so much over time that he didn't lock the door that day and didn't worry about it.
Well, where she was found is only about an hour and a half from where I live.
Really?
Yeah, yeah, not too far away. Not too far. So it was all over the news here. All over the news. And so it was quite the ordeal. So crazy world we live in. Well, I'm glad she's safe, and I'm glad that and he will get justice. He's already in custody. He already admitted to everything he's done. Calmly, I might add, admitted to everything he's done.
You know, the thing about that, though, by the way, FYI to any cop who might be listening, that kid should be on suicide watch.
Yeah.
Right now. If he's not, he should be.
Yeah.
Because that's the biggest risk for him right now. Not that a lot of people would care about that, but it's your job to keep him alive. So
that
do
is
that
true.
if possible.
That is true. And so we will follow the case as it unfolds. What happens to that guy? There's a lot of weird headlines you gave us this week, Dr. Cole.
I know. I tried really hard.
Really odd ones.
You know, this story that broke, I had to include it, even though it's kind of like all out there and in everybody's face right now, is the one of the girl in the Arizona facility that was comatose and has been comatose for 14 years.
Yes.
So 14 years she's been comatose, and they found out this last week. So, nurses go in to check on them and all the time. And this nurse goes in to check on her, and she's giving birth.
Unbelievable.
That is just horrible.
How could they not have known, first of all, boy, that woman was getting great care. No one knew she was pregnant.
Right. And did they not notice the huge 9-month-old belly? Yeah, I mean,
you would think. I haven't seen pictures of her, so I don't know. I mean, she was, I believe, quadriplegic, if I'm not mistaken, in a coma. And there's an amount of bloat and things that go on when you're in bed constantly. So maybe they didn't. But my favorite part of this entire story, hands down, is when it came over the news. I was listening to an account, and they said the alleged rape.
Well, alleged? She can't say, sure, let's get it on, big boy. What? Alleged?
No, I actually rewound the television to play it again because I'm like, I didn't hear that right. Nope, that's what they said. They were calling it the alleged rape for the first day this was reported. And I'm like, I'm pretty confident that you don't have to say that in this case.
Wow. Yeah, by the way, I know they did DNA tests on all the male employees. Have they found anything yet?
They have not released it if they have, and it's going to be 2 weeks or more before they get a solid DNA result anyway. Obviously, I think it's someone that works at the facility. I mean,
I would probably.
It seems likely.
Yeah, or a visitor.
But I seriously doubt it. My guess is that it's somebody that had access to her with not a lot of other people watching. So either a care worker that wouldn't be watched because they were independent, or like a janitor that's there when care workers aren't.
Well, that's true too. They're gonna probably find who did it, obviously, with the DNA stuff. I would hope anyway. And once they do, they're gonna face a whole bunch of charges. But okay, what about the baby? What did they do with the baby? And they never say what happened to that.
They did. Her parents. The baby is going to her family.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, it's their grandchild, like it or not.
Well, that's true, but it's just so strange. It's just such a strange tale. It kind of reminds me of that movie Kill Bill, where do you ever remember that scene?
I don't.
You don't remember that scene where she's comatose and the guy's like, you can her for this much money?
Oh, yes.
And I've heard
yes.
now, after that happened, I did hear from a few different people that is way more common than we realize.
It's actually much more common in elder facilities than people would think as well.
Oh,
I hate to say
so
that, but it is
wrong.
true. It's very common that elders become sexually abused. It happens all the time.
Time to own the Audi you've always wanted. Because until February 28th, you can enjoy the Audi A4 with a complimentary style pack, saving you over €4,500. So, all you have to do is choose the colour. Call into your local Audi dealer during the 191 sales event. Terms and conditions apply while stocks last.
It's
It's
just
it-
gross.
You've got to. I mean, that's the thing about a lot of these care places. Like, you've got to do really thorough background checks. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not just talking about the background check that you run for like your state. I'm
Yeah.
talking calling previous employers, asking about their background check, specifically if they were in other states, in other communities. Like, I would want to know the background of every single person that set foot in that place, and a thorough background at that.
Yeah.
But a
well,
lot of them
yeah.
don't.
Yeah, it just, I'm reading the tale or reading the story. It's just sick. I mean, it's just sick. What kind of human being would do that to her? I mean, that's just sick. Yeah, I mean, it's just wrong. It just really turns my stomach. Sorry.
Well, especially since she has the mental capacity, they said, of like a 2 or 3 year old. I mean,
Isn't that just, yeah. I mean,
yeah.
the person, whoever did that, should get life in prison.
What is her coma? What caused it? What's going on? I mean, why is she not, to be blunt, why is she still around after 14 years?
I have the same question. To me, it sounds like she was brought into the world this way, that she's had problems her entire life, and she's just been in this facility since. That's my understanding. I could be wrong, but it's not like she was living a full life and then had some sort of accident. That's not how they describe her.
So she was born this way and had probably been in facilities her whole life.
Her life, yeah.
Okay.
It has never had, as far as I can tell, has never had any quality of life. She's just being
God, that's just
held.
so sad.
It's unbelievably sad, but on the same token, I guess it kind of depends on what else is wrong with her, because it's unethical. They said like she had a bout of pneumonia recently.
Mm-hmm.
It's unethical for them not to treat her. They have to treat that, right?
Yeah,
They can't let
yeah.
her drown in her own fluids.
Well, no.
And if she's breathing on her own and her heart's beating on her own, she's not
What
going
are
to
you going to do?
Well, yeah, I suppose, you just can't say, well, we're going to kill this one off.
Right, because there's no plug to pull.
Yeah,
She's-
because then you would be entering the murder territory at that point.
Yeah, in this country, yes, there's no sort of euthanasia for someone that has no quality of life.
Yeah,
here.
yeah. There is an argument being made for that, but that's not for this show, but or not right
Great.
now anyway. So wow, that story is just so dim and dark and holy crap balls.
I have a story for you that's brighter.
Good, thank God, please.
I don't know why
Please.
this amuses me so much, this story, and it's not. I don't think anyone else is going to find it funny. It tickles me. So a criminal went in Salisbury, England. A 45-year-old man went to see a copy of the Magna Carta that is
a copy.
yes. There are four. There are four in existence. I guess that they were
I
rewritten.
thought maybe they Xeroxed it.
I know, right? When I first read it too, I was like, what? So it was rewritten, because that's how they copied things back then. It's 803 years old. He went to see the majesty of history, and he took a hammer with him and tried to steal it.
Well, I guess right in broad daylight, we're talking like just walked up there with a hammer and just started pounding the living bejesus out of it.
Yeah, and if you see a picture of where they kept this Magna Carta, it's bright. It's surrounded by lights. It's
Not to mention the tourists.
Yes! I mean, it's it's like walking up to, just a regular museum, right? Walks up with a hammer and actually gets 3 holes in the glass, though.
Wow.
Good for him.
Well,
Those
he
three stars out of 5.
Yeah, he made a bar before I suppose that security came and wrestled him to the ground.
Yeah, and they said, too, because, security in places like this, they're not, they're not, looking for criminal activity. Yeah.
Who's going to think the guy's going to show up with a hammer and start beating on the Magna Carta?
Yeah, and so, they were saying how brave these security people were because he's wailing on glass with a hammer. That's scary.
Wrestle him to the ground. That's the mantra of Secret Service agents everywhere.
It would be a lot cooler if he would have started going, nah, 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 can't touch this. I'm just saying. Hammer time.
Oh, my God. I don't know why that tickled me so much, but, who does that? Who is you know what? I am going to steal one of the 4 copies of the Magna Carta, and I'm going to sell that thing on the black market.
Well, yeah, but how would you resell it?
No one will know.
Right? All the agents out there are telling all their contacts, in the underground. They're like, by the way, if you see a copy of the Magna Carta show up,
snatch that up, would you?
You can let us know.
How would you? There's not a fence in this world that could probably move the Magna Carta.
You would think, and the only thing I can think is that maybe, just maybe, there is some rich idiot out there that asked for it.
Yeah, maybe.
That wanted it.
That would explain the hammer and the man screaming while he hit the glass and then screamed when they tasered him. Hopefully it's all worth it in the end.
They say there could be a fair amount of missing art that are just sitting in the private collections of the wealthy.
We're talking about the Magna Carta.
Fairly significant. I agree.
Who's not going to notice that on the wall?
One is reminded of national treasure.
It is too. Yes, exactly. Maybe they watched that movie and thought, it's a great idea to go get the Magna Carta.
I don't think they used a hammer, though.
No. They were trying to be more subtle.
They were a little more subtle, yes.
A little bit.
A little more thought out.
Yes.
More.
So I have so many good stories that I have to get to this one, partly because of the mugshot, if you guys get a chance. The New York Post, ran a story about, this is the weird part, he's from Missouri.
Oh, yeah, the show me state.
Yes. Well, yes, and he did. And he was staying, though, in an upscale resort in Florida. So I'm going to say that he's like Florida man. Right?
Ah, yes.
So he is
every bit as good as Florida man.
Every bit.
Could not agree with you more. So what happened was he was apparently one of these people at this Ocean Reef Club in Key Largo approached him because at 5 a.m. on Monday, he was seen by a public safety officer passed out in a golf cart.
Oh, wow. Who hasn't done that?
Right. And so the public safety officer was kind of like, hey, dude, are you all right? And when he woke up, instead of getting out of the golf cart, he took off. Just floored it, however fast those things go, weaving all over the road. And so now the cops are involved, right? And deputies responded, and he's flipping them off and yelling obscenities.
Naturally.
Yeah, of course.
All part of the experience.
It is.
Until he hopped out on South Harbor Drive, where he locked himself inside of his mother's home, who apparently lives in Florida.
So he is of Florida.
He is Florida born. Not really born, but he's kind of like a transplant, is what you're saying.
He's got ties to Florida. So he locks himself inside his mom's house, right? Probably, he gets away, flips him off, locks the door, and he's like, wah. So using an unlocked side door, the cops entered into the residence where Terry began attacking the public safety officer who witnessed the attack. Yes. But Terry's mother, Martha Wolfner, 63, pressed her body against the door and held it locked while Terry closed it using his feet from the floor.
Wow.
What?
They tag teamed it.
Yes.
Wow. So mom was helping
A wrestling
in
move.
crime. Yeah.
And this prompted them, of course, to like smash a window with a baton before reaching inside to unlock the door. And
Damn.
Terry was eventually taken into custody, but not before putting his face in the broken glass on the floor and growling like a dog.
That kind of thing, huh?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep, exactly. Exactly right. Yeah.
We thought it was a real dog.
Yeah, I used to try to fake him out. I'm just a family dog. Leave me alone.
And
They
then
didn't believe
when
him.
they put him in the cop car, he kicked out one of the doors of the cop car.
Whoa.
Not the window.
The whole door?
Yep.
How the heck
Causing
do you
damage to
manage
a door
that?
handle, the window switch. Yeah, he was taken to a hospital after telling deputies his shoulder was dislocated
Wow.
before being taken to jail. And if you look at his mugshot, people, you will notice a thin white band around his neck that I believe is a sling for his dislocated arm.
Damn, this guy's nuts.
Yes, and his mom
And
apparently is
crazy
totally
strong.
supportive of that. Yeah.
Wow, and mom taught him everything he knows about vandalism and evading cops.
I mean, if you're, I don't care who they are. If somebody walks into your house reeking of alcohol, running away from the cops, and then tries to
Hey,
hold the
guys.
door shut when the cops are knocking,
Yeah.
are you helping them? I
Well,
mean,
hey, maybe his mom is Ma Barker.
maybe.
Get it?
Yeah, but I'm saying.
I'm here all week.
You got to check out the mugshot if you haven't. Like, his face is scraped up from the glass. And
Oh,
everything.
he's just a mess.
He is a mess.
He
An
is a broken down dog. Let me tell you, he is just a mess. Okay,
Yes.
well now we've talked about men behaving like dogs.
We've had one seemingly quite intelligent yet utterly amoral criminal.
Well,
And we've had a
intelligent.
total dumbass supplemented by dumbass mom.
Yes, exactly.
Well, intelligent criminal, yes, but who's not going to notice the hammer smashing the glass?
Oh, no, I was talking about kidnapping.
Oh, yes, the kidnapping. Well, yeah, he did show
The hammer
some
was not
almost
intelligent.
superhero-like. Yeah,
Strikes me as impulsive.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, I'm sure it's somebody with some issues. They thought, well, let's go ahead and grab that thing. So, where do you want to go next?
Well, this one is it's interesting because it's a crime that the person totally could have gotten away with, and no one would have known,
Wow.
except like those criminals who like to brag, like Jack the Ripper sent letters, stuff like
Sure,
that. So
gotta do
it's-
that.
yeah, it's kind of like that, right? Like he couldn't
Yeah.
handle the fact that he got away with it. So
Couldn't handle the fact.
no,
Truly.
people needed to know. Like, I'm a mastermind, right? So there was a Louisiana man who was arrested eventually because he ate his ex-girlfriend's fish.
Say what? No. What? Oh, no,
Yes.
no, we're talking about a pet fish.
Yeah,
Not
a
like
pet
dinner,
fish.
not
So
like
the-
dinner rolled around and they're having surf and turf.
No, a pet fish. So a bizarre incident happened when this was actually in 2016, when then 18-year-old Maxwell Taffin was accused of eating the fish while staying in his ex's dorm room at Louisiana State. LSU police investigated and ultimately issued a criminal summons, but Taffin allegedly failed to appear. Now, the reason they issued this summons is because the girlfriend basically came back after a football game. And Taffin told her to check your fish tank. And when she did, the fish was missing. And she's like, what happened to my fish? And later she got a text from Taffin with a picture of something that occurred in the bathroom. And he said, I found your fish.
Oh, my God. What
Are you kidding? Okay, whoa, hold on.
Transformed,
Hold
I'm
on,
guessing.
Hold on.
Yes.
He
Modified.
He ate the fish. The girlfriend comes back from a football game, and he has pictures of I'm going to assume a digested fish in the toilet.
Yes.
Oh my God!
Processed.
Oh,
processed
that's horrible. That's horrible. Who would do that?
And he tagged the picture of the toilet activities.
Oh.
Found your fish. That's what he tagged.
Found your fish and it's a floater.
And this, you said ex-girlfriend?
Yes.
I would imagine by now it's an ex-girlfriend. Now, what charges is he facing for eating a fish and photographing poo?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. So he reportedly confessed after the cops rounded him up, and he's now 21. The now 21-year-old faces charges of cruelty to animals, improper telephone communications, and fugitive from justice.
Why a fugitive from justice?
I guess he ran when they first tried to go and get him. So
Oh, for eating the fish and taking pictures.
and
of poo.
taking a picture of the evidence. Yes.
Cheese it. It's the feds.
Yeah, right? I hardly consider this the crime of the century. Come on.
Oh, right.
A 49-cent fish.
Yeah, it's him and the Lindbergh kidnapping. Oh, it's neck and neck. What's more important?
So, wait a minute now. If it's cruelty to... what is it when you buy a
I was
live
going to
lobster?
say.
What about a lobster?
But they're not supposed to be a pet. If you bought it at a pet store, maybe it would be a problem.
What about all the poor fish
Like
that
a discrepancy.
Yeah, what about all the poor fish that needlessly die at the hands of Mrs. Paul?
I honestly think it has a lot to do with what you consider the pet. I honestly think, like, if you had, like, a slug that was your pet slug.
So if I had a
Salted
rock,
my slug.
Yes!
so if I had a rock,
do.
if I had a rock and it was my pet rock, I decided I want to smash it, I might be in trouble.
Borrow that hammer from the
Magna Carta man.
Carta dude.
Yeah. Go smashing some rocks. What the hell? That is crazy story. That's a nutty story. And that guy deserves to go to jail just for stupidity.
Oh, my goodness. And can you imagine being the girl that gets that picture? I can't even.
Imagine how scarred she is now. She can't look at a toilet anymore without crying a little bit.
Oh, God. All right. So this next story actually involves some animal issues as well. I have two. But this was a deer poacher, a pretty prolific one, actually. They said that his name is Dave Barry. He's from Missouri. And he took, you guys know more, Joel, you especially know more about hunting than I do. My dad always hunts. But, like, for instance, how many bucks, like, male deer are you allowed to kill in a hunting season?
One.
That's it.
That's it. Just one for one in my state anyway. Unless it's intensive harvest. But generally speaking, for this sort, for sake of argument, you get one.
And are there any, like, restrictions on what you have to do with the deer after you shoot it or not?
Once you shoot the deer, you have to tag it with a sight tag. You have to register the animal with the state so they know that you got a deer.
Okay.
And then that's, as far as illegal stuff, that's about it.
Do you have to do anything with the deer's body? Do you leave it? How does that work?
No, you take it in the garage, or it depends on your preference, but you field dress it, it's called, in the field. That's what it's called, field dressing, which
Do you have to do that, though? Is that, like, legal that you have to do that?
No, you have to do that so you can get the... I'm going to get a little graphic here, folks, so plug your ears. So you get the guts out of it, otherwise it ruins the meat.
No. I know that because my dad always used to do that.
That's what field dressing is.
I think what she's asking is there a legal requirement that you
dispose
do
of
something with the body, one thing or another? So can you just leave it there in a lump? Or, are you supposed to haul it away?
There's several different ways to dispose of your unwanted deer parts. Generally speaking, you could throw it away, the carcass. You could, provided it's within reason, after it's been deboned. Whatever's left, basically, a lot of guys, they'll throw it back in the woods because animals will come and they'll eat it.
That's what I was wondering. You can't leave the whole deer
No,
there,
you just can't shoot the deer and leave it lay there, walk away. I mean, that's wanton waste, it's called.
Oh, okay. See, that's what I wanted to know. Like, can you just do that? That seems...
No, you just can't shoot it and go, well, I got one, and then walk away. No, that is wanton waste. That's what that's
interesting.
called.
Okay, so this guy, right, David Barry from Missouri, he was, I guess, they said this was a huge operation, like with him and his dad and his brother, that they were taking trophy bucks at night illegally with spotlights, because with light, as any of you who have ever driven a car know, you get a light on a deer.
Yeah, shining deer is illegal. In most
freeze.
jurisdictions. Yes.
Yeah, they freeze for a minute anyway. They pause for a second, which makes them a lot easier to kill, right? And so this guy...
I wouldn't know this, but I know a guy that used a 1,000,000 candlelight spotlight one time, and they just stand there like statues, and you just pick the one you want.
You know what, though? I'm sorry. Don't cheat. They're deer. Seriously. I am big on that, because like my dad, it's like fight fair. You know what I'm saying? They're deer. But anyway, this guy...
I don't know anything about that.
This guy was caught doing this. And like, I mean, big time, like they were... Okay, sorry.
He's shining deer.
Yeah, plug your ears again, people. They were doing it for bucks, for the horns on the bucks, the racks. They were doing it to take the heads, right? But they were leaving everything else.
Yeah.
Yes. And so he was fined. Overall, they were fined $51,000.
Wow.
And their court costs. And I think he's going to do a year in jail. And the judge ordered him to watch Bambi once a month for a year.
Oh, once a month for a year. Sit through Bambi. Probably going to love it after being in jail. Hey, look at that. It's Bambi time. Yes.
But here's my thing.
At least I'm not in jail.
Yeah.
You know that scene in Bambi where everybody usually cries, where the mom gets shot by like a hunter? Is he going to be like, yes, during that scene?
He might be. He might be like, I would have bagged that dough.
Right? I see why the judge did it. I just don't know if it's like the best plan.
Yeah, that's kind of a waste of taxpayers' time and money and resources, isn't it?
Well, I guess he's going to do the year in jail anyway. So, like, buy a 49-cent DVD copy of Bambi.
49 cents? Where you been?
Oh, man, DVDs, like, on sale at, like, Walmart. You can get them for $1. Bambi is probably in there.
Well, maybe, but, it is a Disney classic. So
all the Disneys remain artificially propped up.
You know what? If this guy grows a conscience because of it, I'll spring for it. Okay, I'll buy a copy of it.
Did you guys hear that? So, is there an email to contact this particular jail?
I absolutely will.
We will donate a copy. I think I have a copy laying around, and we could donate a copy of Bambi, courtesy of our show.
Grow a conscience. Oh God! And I have one more deer story because
deer. Yeah,
you can't make it up. You just can't. No. So do you guys see? I'm not as familiar with this stuff because I have Henry, and you guys are both married as well. But have you heard of the app Bumble?
Bumble?
Yeah.
No, but why don't you fill me in? I mean, what you know about it anyway.
Well, I know it's a dating app. That's really
another dating app.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never even seen it. Like Bumble, like the bee, I guess. It's got a little bee logo. I looked it up.
I would imagine. I don't know anything about this, but I've heard a lot more about Tinder. Maybe it's like a Tinder kind of thing.
Yeah, I have no idea. So I don't know how people I don't know if they read profiles or what it is, but anyway, this woman apparently met a man on Bumble. Okay, so in Oklahoma, and I guess they're talking. Like, I don't think they actually met in person. Is what I'm trying to say. But the woman is like talking to this guy that she matched with, I guess, on Bumble.
Sure.
And
things are going great.
She's telling him about how I shot my first buck and I'm, quote, pretty happy about it, she wrote. Mm-hmm. But she told this man that she shot her first buck ever with the help of someone shining a spotlight at night.
Oh, that is such a bait right there. That guy fell for it. Oh, hook, line, and sinker.
Well, it's a crime. You can't do it.
It is a crime. Right? So, the lady talked to the
lady.
This is the lady talking. Okay, I was assuming it was going to be the guy bragging to a lady. Okay, all right, go ahead.
The lady's bragging. She's like, I bagged my first buck. I'm pretty happy about it. But then she tells the guy that is her prospective date, right, that it's with the help of a spotlight. And she provided a photo from the hunt, right? Yeah.
Wow.
So instead of a date, the next day, game warden showed up at her door. Because it turns out that the guy, it looks like from the text here, I guess they have profiles, right? The guy on Bumble that you matched with didn't say what his profession was. Turns out he's a game warden.
No. Oh, that's karma. That's exactly what that is.
Your comeuppance, biatch.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's karma. That's, you know what that deer's name was? Karma.
Karma.
And
Karma.
so
The buck bites back.
they were fined $2,400
for poaching the deer.
And I guess Harrison, the game warden, his name is Harrison, last name's Harrison. He said, it was kind of a bummer, but you can't just ignore a broken law that falls right in your lap. Yeah.
If you're a single game warden and you're on a dating app and that happens, I wonder how many of them would look the other way just to,
I'm sure a lot.
Because you're kind of off the clock at that point.
Oh, I agree with you.
Or maybe he should have said, I'm a game warden, so maybe you should shut up.
Yeah, like don't tell me about that and tell me you're never going to do it again and we'll just forget it. No,
that's a little heavy-handed.
Well, no, I mean, especially if you really kind of like the person, you're attracted to them. But this guy's
I'm not defending her. I'm just saying that, take the badge off once in a while, buddy.
You know what, though? Hats off to me. Hats off to Harrison.
I don't know.
Having integrity.
I know.
My guess is, obviously, purely guess, what pushed him over the line from all the stuff you guys were just saying, running around is, I don't know. Do I have to do this? Do I want to do this? Who am I responsible to? I'm off the clock. I think it was the picture.
Yeah. Well, a couple of listeners just chimed in saying, are you sure that wouldn't fall under entrapment? Didn't he have a duty to say he's a law enforcement officer?
What? By the way, can I talk about urban myths
and
legends
do.
for 1 minute? There is nothing in the code of, forensic psychologists for one, or officers, or FBI agents, or any law enforcement professional. None. There's nothing for them to have to tell you that they are a law enforcement professional. The only reason that they have to identify themselves, the only way they would have to do that is if they are in the process of arresting you or stopping you, like pulling you over, then yes, they must identify themselves as a law enforcement officer. But if you're just talking to them, there's no duty. That's like me talking about and no, I don't do this in case you're listening. But that's like me talking about cheating on my taxes and somebody that is a tax accountant going, oh wait, I have a duty to warn you, ma'am.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah. No.
There's nothing anywhere. There never has been. It's a movie thing that caught on. I don't know why. There's nothing.
I still say the guy was probably sitting there kind of weighing the scales of justice.
Especially if she's
I don't know. Picture. Now I got to turn her in.
Yeah, it might have come down to the hot factor, too. She's not that hot.
Although it did say it was kind of a bummer. So I'm guessing he thought she was hot. I think that it was, Eric, you're right. It was the picture of the hunt.
Yeah,
and he's like,
had to have been. But anyhow, either way, she did it wrong. She did face the penalty. So
yeah, she should have.
Just don't poach deer.
And you know what? If you do, don't brag about it on a dating app.
Oh, God, no.
What's wrong with you?
Yeah. What kind of person is that stupid just to go willy-nilly? Hey, by the way, I shine deer for fun.
I know. God, it was really. And you know what? That should have been the nail in the coffin for her. It wouldn't have been the fact that she shared the deer. It would have been like, you're dumb enough to admit an illegal activity on a dating app? What do you think?
Yeah, that's stupid. What are you thinking there, lady?
Yeah.
Are you nuts? Touched? What's wrong with you?
Touched. I love that. I think only people in the Midwest use that term. I swear. Every time I say it, people are like, what? Yeah, like that person's touched. Like, what does that mean?
What does that even mean? I know. I used to get that same look when I lived other places. What does that mean? Yeah, you're touched. Oh, well, thank you. No, that's not a good thing.
No, I don't mean I'm touched. I mean,
You're touched by insanity.
Just a little bit.
Just a wee little bit.
And this next story I love for just so many reasons. This is in Pennsylvania. An attorney for a Pennsylvania woman, the woman was charged with drunk driving, right? Hinted that his client's coat chewing could have thrown off the results of the breathalyzer.
Who hasn't chewed a coat or two?
What are you talking about? Like, what?
Coat chewing.
Chewing the coat.
I mean, that's something that maybe a dog would do.
Or like a toddler. I mean,
Who chews their coat on a regular basis? And why would there be alcohol in your coat?
I know, right? So,
If so, tell me where you bought that coat.
This is getting odder and odder.
she's 47 years old.
Oh, gosh.
Her name is Jana Moshkot.
Okay.
An officer pulled her over and testified, the officer testified, that she was, indeed, nibbling on her coat before he gave her the breathalyzer, and he ordered her to stop.
Okay,
Chewing on that coat, woman.
I'm no scientist. I definitely ain't no cop. But I don't see how chewing on your coat would throw up a breathalyzer.
Well, her lawyer, said that chemical composition of material, and like if you get something and don't wash. By the way, if you buy clothes, wash them
Right away.
There's all,
right away.
Yes, before you wear them, because there's all sorts of chemicals that they put on them to keep them wrinkle free and stuff. But he was saying that the chemicals that were naturally in the coat as a result of processing the coat could alter the results of the breathalyzer test, is what he was saying.
Well, I got a garment nightmare story for you. And oh yeah, no, it's nothing that happened to me or anyone else I really know, but my wife now. You know the single pairs of underwear that you can buy just off the shelf that a lot of ladies do.
Yes.
We were watching Good Morning America. And did you know that over 60% of those pairs of underwear have been tried on and put back on the shelf?
Oh, I believe it. Yeah, that, again, washing.
And that weirded her out, or me out as well, to never buy, right, just something like that that's not packaged. Because there's this, there's the rare occurrence that there could be something left behind that you don't want.
You mean underwear that's not wrapped?
Yeah,
not in plastic?
Yeah, not in plastic.
No, there's no. Women's underwear frequently isn't, because you try it on places like Victoria's Secret. They never.
And they had a great big health warning about it.
That's horrifying.
On this show, I think it was Good Morning America, because a lady allegedly, according to her, got some type of disease of the seafood nature from these underwear.
Okay, first of all, lots of questions. Why are you wearing it without why are you wearing it without washing it first?
I don't know.
I mean, could you get I think I can say bacterial vaginosis on the air. I can say that.
You can, yes.
Right?
Well,
yes.
not only can you,
but you
did.
Hey man, I'm putting it out there. Like, if you're thinking that you got it from that, I mean, is it possible? Again, why are you not washing the underwear? Second, it's probably the composition of the underwear itself. It's not breathable that you get something like that.
She allegedly got the crabs.
Oh no! Oh, that variety.
That's what I meant. That's how I gently put it. Of the seafood
sure.
variety.
That's possible. Sure it is. Yeah.
Wow, Dr. Cole, where'd you go? No.
Yeah.
Your voice got real high there for a minute. Like, oh my God, that's how I buy mine. No!
Oh my God! No, I just don't know why you wouldn't wash them first.
I don't know. People they do all sorts
and
of
don't
strange
ever
things.
and don't ever try them because you can try them on at places like Victoria's Secret. You should be trying them on over the underwear you already have on.
Good point. I didn't think about that.
There you go.
You're not just putting these out No,
but it was women's, of course, undergarments, because men's you rarely see sold that way.
Because do you try them on?
No, I have yet to try a pair of underwear on.
In underwear, there's only 4 sizes.
I'm just mad they don't come more in brown.
Yeah, right? Why they don't? They don't. It's crazy. No, women's underwear, it's like there's 10 million different sizes depending on where you go. And there's all these oh, look, we're going to put a cute cutout here for no particular reason. It's crazy. So
Wow.
with women's underwear, you almost do have to try it on because you have no idea.
Yeah, it sounds like that it sounds like
men's have small, medium, large.
That's it. It's
and
very
then maybe
easy.
there's teeny, and then there's huge ass.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I love at Victoria's Secret? My favorite is do you know what OS means?
No. What does that mean?
One size.
Oh. Well,
fits all.
Fits all. Or fits most. Or whatever.
And they have that in underwear. And I'm like, no. No.
Well, anyhow, I don't know how we ended up on the Victoria's Secret part. But anyhow, that was the other garment horror story I heard. Okay, moving along.
We have to get to the doorbell guy.
We
have
do.
to.
We do. He had commitment. It's not often you see that kind of commitment with somebody anymore.
And have you seen this guy's eyebrows too? By the way, like they're perfect.
I'm gonna go on a limb and I'm gonna say he's touched.
He was drinking a pina colada at Trader Vic's.
Oh, yes.
His eyebrows were perfect.
They're amazing.
I'd like to meet his tailor.
So there's this thing called Ring, ring.com. I
Yes,
guess.
yes.
I don't know. I didn't know about it. I had no idea what it was.
It's
Define
the
it. What is
other.
it?
It's the other new security. Where you're. What's the other one that the I don't know who is it?
Ring,
Shack?
Yeah, Nest.
There's two of them. They're simply security. Current modern day over Wi-Fi type thing where you can pick it up, where you pick it up on your phone from anywhere. So the camera goes to the cloud, and then you pick it up on your phone wherever you are. So you can literally in real time see what's going on at your front door, for example.
Exactly. And they should really call it a peephole, but that's just
It's the other one. There's another company.
I don't have one. I don't have one on my door like that. I do have cameras around my house that do link up.
And a fence, I'm sure.
Huh?
Do you have a fence of razor wire as well?
No, I don't.
Just so you feel a little more home.
I do not. No, I would too. I'd be like, all locked in. No, I don't have a fence. I do have cameras all over though. They do link.
Do you have a moat with sharks
Cameras
and lasers on their heads?
All over.
I do. No, I actually do. I have them everywhere. I want to know. Like the cat.
Cameras on the cameras?
No, but I do have a cat that likes to set off the camera. It's not my cat. Just to make that clear, it's one of the neighbor kids' cats, and the kid named it Bernie Sanders. And so,
damn Bernie Sanders again.
I'm not kidding. Bernie Sanders sets them off all the time. I don't have the Ring though. So I guess the Ring, it goes on your door, like right on your door. Like, is it like a doorbell?
Yeah, you've never seen Ring before? I mean, it's all over the TV. You can't watch a program without at least seeing one advertisement for it.
It's Ring. Yeah, they show, especially during Christmas. It was really big at Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
All the package theft.
Yep, the porch pirates. Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, so I guess the people that were the victims of this crime had this installed. So they had this surveillance system that's right on their door that looks right out at like the sidewalk right outside. And a guy came by named Roberto Daniel Arroyo.
Roberto.
And yes, he came up to their doorbell thing and he proceeded to lick it for 3 hours.
Oh. Man, that is that's some real tenacity.
Lick that doorbell for 3
hours.
Hey, I got 3 hours to kill. What could I do?
What?
Foster world peace, cure disease, make $1 million, lick a doorknob.
It's a strange
and
video.
I guess that their surveillance system, like mine does too, it'll go off if Bernie Sanders is outside. It'll like do a little ping
as he yells about taxes.
He's kind of a gray cat too. It's awesome. No, so I guess it went off, and it was like 5 a.m, and they were alerted to this guy licking their doorbell for 3 hours. Yeah. Yep.
That's a little strange.
And they uploaded it to the internet. It's on the news, and you can watch it yourself. You can watch his perfectly manicured eyebrows while he licks the doorbell. Yeah.
So, did he ever say why he licked the doorbell for 3 hours?
Good Lord, would I like to know. I'm assuming that it's drugs. Good God, I hope it is.
Wasn't he caught?
He was, yeah. It's just misdemeanor charges, though, because he didn't break anything. He didn't really harm anything.
Just licked the doorbell for 3 hours.
I know, right? Like, what do you do? Like, I want to make a criminal complaint. I guess it's a criminal complaint.
Well, that was unsanitary.
Yeah, what do you do if you're the judge presiding over this? You're like, so... How do you plead to licking a doorbell for 3 hours?
Pray tell, why did you do something?
I don't know. I would laugh and no. I would basically just say, Mr. Arroyo, I'm assuming that you're on some sort of a substance. Could you tell us what that is? And if he's not on a substance, I would think that maybe he's psychotic. In which case, let's deal with this differently.
Yeah. Yeah, well, if he's psychotic, he's ringing doorbells. He's at least harmlessly psychotic.
No, exactly right. Like, he's not doing anything violent, and who cares except for the fact that somebody got a molested doorbell,
Yeah, and
that is one well-licked doorbell.
it is. I bet you the video with his tongue going, that's really interesting.
I would want to rip that doorbell out after that. Like,
Wow, I would imagine they cleaned it thoroughly afterwards.
Kill it with fire.
Kill it with fire.
Thrower, yeah, I know. I don't even know how you clean. They said they cleaned it, but I'm like, I'm not sure what I would
was
do.
the family's name that this happened to?
I don't know. I didn't see it.
Okay.
They opened up a fire hose full of Clorox.
Yeah, that is a little on the ridiculous side.
Man, oh man, oh man.
A little on the ridiculous side. That is nuts, all right? That is just wrong.
That is way closer to the side, to the... The needle moves closer, far closer to crazy than to criminal.
Yeah. I almost feel bad for the guy. Is he that lonely and that desperate he has to lick doorbells for entertainment?
Like I said, he may actually be mentally ill, in which case he needs help, and they should get that for him. Because he doesn't quite look all there. If you watch the video, and I caution you don't, because it'll haunt your dreams, but he doesn't quite look all there. And
permanently burned into your retina.
Occasionally we get an email from someone on the inside that listens to this show, because we actually have some inmates that like the show, by the way.
Are they doorbell lickers?
Well, no, I imagine the emails we get now, like, I might be crazy, but that guy's nuts.
I would totally agree with you. Like, yeah, and I don't think we should call any inmate a doorbell licker. That just sounds horrible.
No, that's horrible. That's I would imagine if he does see any time, which is highly doubtful for looking at doorbell.
Doubtful. But
let's just say he does see a little time. That'll be interesting conversation with other inmates. So what are you doing? And what are you in here for?
What are you in for?
Yeah, what are you in for? Licking a doorbell for 3 hours.
You know what, though? I might assume it was a euphemism for something else, and I'd be like, stay away from that guy. I'm not sure what he did, but he calls it licking a doorbell.
Yeah, that guy is really odd. He's saying he's licking doorbells.
Too weird for me.
Yeah, stay away from that one.
Rage. We got time for one quick one, and I know there's one more headline we haven't hit yet.
There is. It's Oklahoma as well. Rogers County.
Oh, yeah. It's Oklahoma.
Oh, God. And I love the mugshot of these kids. And they are kids. Okay. So 3 Claremore residents, Rogers County Jail, they tried to pull over someone. So they were driving a Pontiac, right? They're driving a Pontiac, which Pontiac is the model of a lot of older police cars, right? So they're driving a Pontiac on Highway 88 on Wednesday night, and they turned on some red and blue lights and attempted to pull someone over, right? Wow. And so 20-year-old Matthew Lewis, 18-year-old Michael Newman, and 19-year-old Jessica Lewis, right? They pulled this person over, and it turns out the person they tried to pull over was a sheriff's deputy.
Oh, no, that ended badly.
Every time.
Jackpot. Yeah, it's like the date with the game warden, right?
Yeah.
Like karma.
Oh, so now that's fairly serious crime, right? I mean, that's pretty big time.
It actually is kind of a serious crime, and they also found methamphetamine and marijuana inside the car too. So you've got drug possession, possibly depending on the amount, intent to distribute. You've got drug transportation, and you've got impersonating an officer. So they're actually looking at some time.
Wow, all because they want to be just jerkholes and pull this guy over, play a joke. And what were they going to do to him anyway once they had him pulled over?
I have no idea. But if one of these kids pulled me over, I'd run over a foot on the way out. Let's just put it that way. Like, there's no way I believe they were an officer.
In this climate of conceal and carry as well,
terrifying.
I mean, they might have been shot.
Or they might have been carrying themselves.
Yeah, exactly,
It's crazy. Yeah. So I have no idea why they pulled him over. Thank God it was somebody in law enforcement and they got, locked up.
That actually, makes more sense. I mean, not sense, but safer to actually pull the cop over because it could have gone really badly in a dangerous way quickly.
And if you're ever not sure, it's if you're in an area you don't recognize them as an officer. I don't think they would be plain clothes and pull you over. They shouldn't be. But if you are confused because the car's not marked appropriately or you don't know,
I'm so confused.
I'm so confused. I don't know what lights mean.
Absolutely ask to see their badge. Ask them what their badge number is. You have every right to do that. You do not have to roll the window all the way down. That is your right. And lastly, if you feel really uncomfortable, ask them to escort you to the nearest police station. Smart,
good advice right there. If you're feeling uncomfortable, and also they cannot make you pull over in a dangerous area as well.
No,
so if you're on the side of the interstate and there's a lot of traffic zooming right on by, you don't feel comfortable with it, you can actually pick your spot and pull over.
Correct.
So we got to get out of here. We got to get Josh in, and we are going to go ahead and come right back at you with Murder Mountain. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Hi, Tom Bodette. If you can hear me, then you have an internet connection, which means you can do cool things online, like listen to streaming radio, obviously, or watch a video of a monkey washing a cat. Let your freak flag fly. Or you can book a room at a great price at Motel6.com. Isn't the internet wonderful? Everything you want right at your fingertips, and whoa, did not need to see that. I'm Tom Bodette for Motel 6, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Unexpected reactions to smart financial decisions brought to you by feedthepig.org.
Well, I finally did it. My student loan is totally paid off.
I can't believe it.
I can't believe it either. I paid more than the minimum each month, and soon enough, it was gone.
So you're just giving up?
Giving up on what?
The life of luxury. Egyptian cotton, caviar Thursdays, designer everything.
What are you talking about?
Our plan. What happened to winning the lottery and mastering the art of the perfect mimosa? Hosting galas, wearing enough jewelry to require a bodyguard, vacationing in the French Riviera, and then buying it.
I just thought maybe it was time to prepare for my future. Set some financial goals, make some smart investments, open a 401k.
Financial goals? Investments? A 401k? You are horrifying right now. Listen, if winning the lottery were easy, everyone would do it.
When it comes to financial stability, don't get left behind. Get tools and tips for saving at feedthepig.org. This message brought to you by the American Institute of CPAs and the Ad Council.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
So me and the boys head out to tailgate today and find some other fans in our spot.
Well, it happens.
Cheering for the wrong team.
Oh, this is war.
Even worse, they've got this couch set up and everything.
A couch?
Yeah, it's sectional.
All right, first thing, don't ever use the word sectional again.
Done.
Second, I want you to grab a 4,700-pound tow chain with J-hook and grab hammer. Throw that on the back of your truck.
Got it.
Now you're going to Hail Mary the J-hook over the end of that couch. Time to find a better spot for your new friends.
That should do it.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Taking a family of 5 to the amusement park can cost a small fortune.
Oh, yeah. So to save some money, we thought, hey, let's bring the amusement park to us.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right. Step right up, young man. Are you ready to ride the wacky waterfall?
That's just the bathtub with the shower head running.
Nope, it's the wacky waterfall.
It's the shower, Dad.
Waterfall.
Wacky.
There's an easier way to save. To get a free rate quote, go to geico.com. Then buy online, over the phone, or at your local Geico office.
Green light. Hey, girl. School zone. I'm getting hungry. Car changing lanes. You want to meet me for pizza? Stop sign. Intersection clear. Yeah, street. Pizza sounds good. Ballin Street? Girlin Street!
It's hard to concentrate on two things at once, like texting and driving. Stop the text, stop the wrecks. How will you stop texting and driving? Tell us at stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
And welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis. Right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa Cole.
And tonight we talked to
AKA Jeff Sessions.
What? What?
Stop. You're recusing yourself.
Oh, okay.
Not right away. I can talk about the lead up stuff, which I want to.
We are talking to a really good friend of ours, Josh Zeman, and we've known Josh now. Gosh, Eric, a lot of years. I mean,
several years,
and every time we have him on, it's always so darn tootin' cool because he brings us some of the best stuff ever. We did a lot of true crime stuff with him, and Killer Legends is awesome. Cropsey was awesome. All of it's been awesome, and this new show is no exception. But I will step aside and let the best intro man do his thing.
All right, we are talking about the new Netflix series, Murder Mountain, when people head to Humboldt County, California, in search of quick riches in the form of marijuana. Oftentimes, they are unaware of the price they may ultimately pay in the illegal cannabis growing capital of the United States. The area produces at least 60% of the black market marijuana crop in the U.S. and also leads the state in missing persons cases. 717 people per 100,000 go missing in Humboldt County annually. That's a lot. Yeah. The area known as Alder Point, commonly known as Murder Mountain by residents, is not only mountainous and spacious, but a surreal little corner of America. The Murder Mountain nickname originated with a serial killer couple who haunted the area in the early 80s, James and Susan Carson, who were later charged with the murders of 3 individuals claiming to be warriors in a holy war against witches. 6-part docuseries Murder Mountain, directed by our good friend Josh Zeman, is now available on Netflix. It dives into the disappearance of 29-year-old Garrett Rodriguez, a transplanted surfer from San Diego who goes missing on Murder Mountain. His disappearance and the events surrounding the investigation into his whereabouts threaten to expose a wild, lawless place and will forever change the local community. Who, you may ask, is Joshua Zeman. He's been on the forefront of the true crime genre for over a decade. His critically acclaimed horror documentary, Cropsey, a critic's pick with the Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and Roger Ebert, was called one of the year's best documentaries and one of the scariest films of the year in 2011. Off the success of Cropsey, Zeman created Killer Legends for NBC Universal, an anthology series that examines true crimes that have inspired our scariest urban legends, preparing as both the #1 downloaded documentary and horror film on iTunes in July of 2014. Killer Legends has since become one of the most watched true crime documentaries on both Netflix and Hulu. Zeman next produced, wrote, and co-starred in The Killing Season, a riveting documentary series digging very deeply into a succession of murders on Long Island attributed to the Long Island serial killer, which aired on A&E in late 2016, and thus to Murder Mountain. Welcome to the program, Joshua, a.k.a. Josh Zeman.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Josh. How you doing, man? I know you've been busy.
Yeah, I've been busy. Didn't know you guys were going to read my bio.
Well, that's kind of Eric's
Always.
Always there's a bio. Always a bio. You know,
follow you wherever you go.
Exactly. How did now we covered you've covered one thing you are, Josh, is you cover a wide range of things. I mean, you have Killer Legends, you have Cropsey, you have the other stuff you've done. I mean, we watched it all. We've interviewed you several times. But what caught your attention about the Emerald Triangle?
Well, this is a show that was produced by a company called Lightbox. There's some really great producers, Jonathan Chin and Simon Chin, who are responsible for like Man on Wire, LA 92, Searching for Sugar Man, some really great stuff. And they kind of brought me on and said, hey, you know, we want to do a series that looks at Humboldt County. And from that, we kind of went in and looked at a couple different storylines. And while we were there, it was really amazing because cannabis was like right in the middle of being legalized. And so you had all these outlaw growers for 40 years growing cannabis, and suddenly right in the middle of this situation, they're asked to like basically, you know, turn their guns in and become legal. So it was a really interesting, fortuitous, and lucky set of events there. I'm
very like, I have to say I was kind of shaken a little bit with the access that you had to, because I was saying to Eric and Joel, I used to live at the tip of the Emerald Triangle near Trinity, the Trinity tip in I lived there for years, right? And it's like I didn't even approach my neighbors. No, seriously, because you just didn't. So it just was kind of understood.
There was no asking for a cup of sugar, is what you're saying?
Oh God, no. You don't just wander onto a property and because you kind of assume that they do their own thing, you do yours. So did you honestly know how dangerous this would be going into it?
Everybody was like, "Don't go to Murder Mountain." And I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, where's Murder Mountain? Let's go.
Yeah, pack my bags. I'm going.
Thanks for the invite.
And, when we were there, I remember one day some guy drives by and he's like, "Do you have any idea where the hell you are?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "This is my mountain." And he's like, "Are you scared?" And I'm like, "No." He's like, "Well, you should be." And he drives off. And I was like, "Okay." I was like, "We're in the right spot."
Yeah, that's a wonderful welcome. Who are you? What are you all about? And
no cookies for you from Welcome Wagon.
Yeah, no. And you see that bridge? I live under it.
Well, and they tote weapons very openly in all of those areas. It's very, very normal to see people out on four-wheelers with weapons. I mean, on the tip near, in Shasta near Trinity, that was very normal.
In California, the land of gun control?
Not up there.
Wow.
No, it's a different country. And everyone says that too, because in the Bay Area where I go to work sometimes, it's a different country. It's a different country.
Yeah. At the end of the day, yes, these people are really fighting to protect their farms. And sometimes, look, most of the growers there, 90% of them are wonderful, loving, unbelievable human beings who are growing medicine.
Yeah.
There's 10% who are some seriously bad apples. And, our job was to kind of humanize these people and tell their stories. And I think at the end of the day, everybody's just fighting this war that the government started, and I think, we just, that's part of being a good storyteller and a good interviewer is to go in and say, "Hey, listen, I know you guys are, angry and you want to do something, but I want to tell your story." So thankfully they put their guns down, but it was pretty dangerous.
I love that you did that you brought the history up to the modern day, because people don't know the history of how it started, and the fact that war on drugs started by Nixon.
Yeah, Nixon.
And how it was like a war zone. And in California, people don't see this in other states. And I was not alive during this time, but even during the time I've been out here, they publicize these pot cut downs where they cut everything down and they burn everything. It's this big, amazing success. And they go in there, guns blazing, essentially, with these helicopters where they're terrorizing, Josh, what you brought forward so well in this documentary, families. They're terrorizing families.
Yeah, I mean, and sometimes one of the most tragic things is a lot of Vietnam vets, they came back, they couldn't acclimate into society. They had crazy PTSD. And so they would go, a lot of them fully went off the grid because they just couldn't normalize. And so they go up to places like Humboldt. They smoke a lot of dope because this is the only thing that's going to allow them to get to sleep. And so they're growing, they're on these mountains, they're fully off the grid, they can't acclimate into society, and the government comes after them with helicopters.
I know, right?
And it's that was the worst thing you could have brought to this party. A helicopter to a Vietnam vet who's fully freaking out all the time. And it's oh my God. And so it almost becomes this movie where suddenly a guy who's having horrible nightmares hears rotors and it's for real. And they're coming after them. And, I was always waiting to see the guy grab his M60 from underneath his bed and just start unloading, And so
any government presence for them is horrible, right? I mean, the trust of the government.
Yeah. It's like a movie, and these guys, they want to smoke dope and, the government comes after them. It was a big deal. This was the first time the U.S. government used, I think, military arms on residents, and that can go to comitatus. And so it was a real war. And a lot of times, first you had sometimes the Vietnam vets, but the other times you had like a bunch of hippie families running in the helicopters, and I was, they're barefoot and the helicopters are flying in, and it's just like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever.
Did the government use paraquat in that area? Was that one of the...
Good point. So, this was basically back in the day, the government, to stop weed production, used this chemical called paraquat that they were going to use to try and shut it down. What happened was the government used paraquat against Mexico. And so all the weed coming up from Mexico had bad chemicals in it. And so a lot of people were like, okay, no more, we're not going to buy any more Mexican weed. Let's buy the weed from Humboldt. Mm-hmm. And so when the government started using paraquat, the prices in Humboldt went up. It's really interesting in terms of watching how a marketplace works. The more enforcement against weed, the more it drove up the prices, and the more it incentivized these people to keep growing.
Yeah,
I believe
supply
that.
and demand, money. Oh, go ahead, Dr. Cole.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, I know he's so not listening because he's not one of those people that's on the grid, but shout out to Sherman, man. He was one of my neighbors that I was lucky enough to meet. His name was Sherman. He was a Vietnam vet. And all the respect in the world for people like that try to go on despite feeling like their government betrayed them. And I feel like in a lot of ways they did. I think you captured that really well. In the documentary. No, I really do. And it's like, I think that humanizing element was a big deal. Do you feel like it was hard to, forgive me for not being able to phrase the question correctly. Yeah. I mean, do you feel like it was difficult to humanize somebody that was engaged in criminal activity?
No, because growing weed is a moral choice and not, I'm sorry, but most of the people in the U.S. don't believe that weed is the devil's lettuce.
That's my line.
Favorite phrase.
So it wasn't really that hard. I mean, these guys were growing a plant, and like we say, if you suddenly outlaw artichokes. And and suddenly, you're going to grow artichokes. You're like, so they used helicopters to stop these people from growing artichokes. It's like, it's just Nixon decided that he wanted to go. He wanted to stop the protesting of the Vietnam War, and the best way to do that was to go after the blacks and the hippies. And so how they did that was they over-criminalized, sentencing for heroin and for weed. And so this was not some kind of moral issue. This was a political ploy that had a profound effect upon the citizens of the United States and still does today.
Yeah, because look at all the people that are doing time as we speak for marijuana offenses. And it's just staggering.
It's crazy. It's crazy the war on weed and how screwed up it is as to whether it's right or wrong. And the tragedy is you got these sheriffs who are going in and fighting these battles for the government over weed, and it's like, that's not really what we should be battling over. Let's battle over, opioids. But no, those are sanctioned.
Well, let's have a war on homelessness. Come on, let's do that.
Yeah.
Well, and if you're looking at drugs, I've read literally thousands and thousands of reports on lifers now. I have thousands in my job. And the one drug, this is not going to be popular, but the one drug that perpetuates the most violence, unfortunately, is one that's legal, and it's alcohol. If you're looking for a drug that has violence actually associated with it, it's alcohol or PCP. But weed? Come on. Nothing. Never.
There's that saying, nobody beats their wives while on weed.
No,
they don't.
They pound down a pizza is what they do.
Yeah, exactly. They ask her to cook.
And they watch Murder Mountain on Netflix.
Yeah. I can attest to that, though. I was a bartender when in my early 20s for, 4 or 5 years. And alcohol, man, something about that. I mean, just the bar fights I used to have to just break up. Because, it was instant violence. Get booze in them, and next thing you know, they want to beat up their buddy.
It lowers your inhibition against aggression. So
exactly.
If there's any aggression in there, that can come right out.
But the
most violent crimes associated with alcohol. But stoners,
but the stoners would be in the bar, right? And I'd look the other way, they'd be lighting up. Whatever, it's a bar. I don't care. They tipped well. I don't care. And I never had to break up their fights because they were all too hungry. They're all ordering pizzas.
Yes.
It was great. I'm like, yeah, you guys are all right.
So the problem here is that, unfortunately, the government's prohibition about weed, because they made it illegal, it suddenly allows for all these different minor drug trafficking organizations, sometimes cartels, but the cartels, or it's what they call them the Bulgarians up there, which are like Russian dudes who come in, who basically, I'm not being pejorative against Russians. I'm saying that's just what this group is, so it's like, whether it's the Bulgarians, the Mexican cartels, the Hells Angels, like all these groups come in and they're like, hell, we can make a lot of money, growing weed. And so it turns into this real kind of like outlaw thing, and so it's the prohibition of it. That's the problem.
And they wear that outlaw thing on their sleeves too. I was noticing that in your documentary, like the 707 on the back of Austin's cap, for instance, is an area code, right? And an area code that kind of factors into sort of this like Norteño sort of presence, of course, which he is not. I mean, I can tell you that right now. But then, like even the victim was kind of throwing hand symbols in his pictures. No, they're not gang symbols. In case anybody's wondering, they're not. They're dealing with Ocean Beach, right, where he's from.
Yeah.
It's just a local pride thing.
Yeah, and it's like, who doesn't want to be Jesse James for a day? Who doesn't want to
be able to fix motorcycles? That's Jesse James. Yes.
I don't think he's referring to that Jesse James.
I still think it's awesome.
Right. So it's like, and, it's like, yeah, man, freaking government, screw them.
Stick to the man. Yeah, exactly. Now, didn't it start, though, the hippies, Josh? I mean, wasn't that the first people up there growing the weed was really the hippie movement?
Yeah, so one of the things we really tried to do was to find the first hippie who grew weed in Humboldt County, like that patient zero. Like that's what
the OG, the original grower.
The original grower. And we're like, are you the original grower? And we kind of found them, but basically what happened is all the hippies who were hanging out in Haight-Ashbury, like Haight-Ashbury became too much of a big thing, it became like almost like too hipster, and then you had Manson. And so their whole like hippie ideals were all like, it just got too big. And so they all wanted to go off the grid. And so they went up to Humboldt County, and they got 50 acres, some pipe and some seeds, and it wasn't marijuana seeds. It was just seeds to grow stuff. And of course, one of the things they grew was weed. And suddenly they it was just something like, how you give like pickled, cucumbers, you give like pickles or like jam to each other for Christmas.
Yeah.
Where we live in, they would give each other weed. But then suddenly the government starts to like, go after the Mexican weed. And suddenly like their little jars are worth like, first it's worth like $300 and then $500 and then $700. And suddenly it's like, oh my God, now we can like pay for Christmas. Oh my God, now we can pay for windows. Like never even had windows or anything like that. They had plastic. So, and I was so happy that we interviewed those guys who were the original smugglers. They went to Afghanistan, got some seeds.
Crazy story.
Right? Sewed the seeds into all their clothes, and they created the cannabis sativa. They created the Sensimilia, and that like those three guys and maybe just a few others were responsible for like the best weed in the country coming from Humboldt. And it is the best weed.
And that is the basis, in case all of you don't know, that's the basis for medical marijuana as an industry, right? Is that the sativas and it is, yes, it's illegal, but it is kind of an amazing feat of like botany. I'm just gonna say.
But really, question though, guys, is what makes that area so much more special than anywhere else? Is the soil better? What's the advantage?
Oh, that's a great question. Like you ask that question, and like the police will say, well, it's no law enforcement, so they could basically sit there and like practice their craft of growing and like mutations and like all these different strains. They had just like a lot of time and a lot of space to like work their craft. You talk to some of the other growers and they're like, oh, it's the microclimate because it happens to be like off the water, but in these big redwoods where there's a lot of moisture to create this kind of like perfect weed. There's all these different variations, and it's really weird because like like one side of the highway makes a certain type of weed because it's a little wetter, and the other side up in the hills makes it a little drier. Like, these guys are crazy good farmers. Like, they were doing farm stuff that I was like, what? You know, and you go into like the local store, and nowhere else in America can you go into a store and buy guano, batshit.
There you can. Yeah.
You know, and like a scale and like trash bags. It's like, wow,
Wow.
that's what they sell here at the store.
Man. Yeah, I know.
Well, I remember, speaking of the beginning of all this, because I'm pretty old, and I'm from California.
You're one of the OGs, weren't you there, Eric? Yeah.
No, but people of my age range, I'm from Southern California. I knew a number of people who decided, I think it'd be a really good idea to go to college at Humboldt State. And they were drawn for that very reason. And I mean, Humboldt State, I assume it still does, but 30 years ago, 40 years ago, I mean, it really had the reputation of, that was weed tech.
Yeah. It's so amazing, and like the people there are really great. Like, I know we show a bad part of Humboldt, but like, you got to really go into the mountains and go in, like, you got to get lost to go into this area. But like, if you're hanging out and you want like an unbelievable vacation, go to Humboldt. It is beautiful. Like, it is crazy beautiful. It is crazy nice. And then you could do like the bud and breakfast. You can go hang out. Like, they're gonna make that place unbelievable.
It is. It's like, I was going to say, like, in the United States, to me, it's the closest thing that comes to something like Ireland or the English Isles. I mean, it is gorgeous. And the reason that I had moved up there, I don't live there now, but the reason that I moved up there in the first place was because I found this amazing house on the side of a mountain, and it was the most gorgeous thing I'd ever seen.
Sure,
and
Dr. Cole, sure.
No, it's true. It's true. But the thing is, it's like, thank God, I'm serious. Thank God I'm from Wisconsin originally, and I understand like rural people and people that kind of want to be left alone, not for criminal reasons, just rural people.
Yeah.
Thank God I understood that. I didn't realize. That's how I'm a freaking forensic psychologist who works with criminals for a living, and I literally didn't know that I was moving up to the Emerald Triangle. But that corridor through there, I was going to say, did you see while you were filming, like the I-5 corridor? And up the coast there's so much trafficking because a lot of this has to be moved, right? Like, did you see that or?
No, totally. Like, I was like, so how do you get it back and forth? Like, I was really into that whole thing. And that's like the laws were changing, like right as we were like filming, like
it's crazy.
It's nutso because like you'll see a U-Haul and like, oh, there's got 200 pounds in that U-Haul, you know? But they'll like go in and so, but the laws are changing. Like, one day the cops will like, pull the U-Haul over, and if you have some kind of paperwork in order, you may get let loose, and another time you're going to get busted. I've been told now, this is kind of interesting. Like, how we track cars via like
VIN numbers,
yeah, right, and you can do it via through like the tolls. So basically, if they know your car has started in like Northern California and it like goes through like Nevada, Arizona or whatever the route is, that basically like you'll get stopped in like Kansas because they'll know that you're trafficking, or they have a very good suspicion.
Okay. Yeah, because now, can the weed leave California? I mean, where do they export? Where's the biggest export to?
Well, that's the whole thing. It's like, there's a huge black market. Like, the amount of weed that California produces, the residents couldn't smoke enough, so it has to be leaving, and that's what they're doing. They're trying to prevent it from leaving on the black market. But now, as all these other states start to go legal, it's not going to be moved as much. This business is going to die.
I feel like there still will be demand for Humboldt weed to a certain extent because it is, like supposedly the best. But like, by the way, if you ever see like a Nissan hatchback driving down the highway at exactly 70 miles per hour, they're moving weed. Okay, like it's just,
or they're very law conscious individuals.
They're
and they
very
don't want to break the law.
abiding. It's like, no, I mean they're very like. It's interesting. Like they would stop at the gas station where I live. It was an outpost for people to stop and like re-up with supplies, and you would see it, and like everybody knew. I mean, everybody knew, and I guess that was the hardest thing that I had a problem with. Not a problem with your documentary. I mean, just in general, like, do the cops really like not know what's going on? Do you feel like they pick and choose who they bust?
I think there's so much of it. It's just like. Like, okay, so there's the scene in the show where the guy is sitting in our car pointing out all the people who are like dealers or like
at the hotel,
and I'm like bullshit. This is never gonna work. But lo and behold, he's like, see those two guys have weed, and like literally you can see the guy drops the bag and you can tell it's a pound of weed. I can't believe
awesome. Yeah,
so right,
There's a weed hotel. That's just crazy. We have to run a break. When we come back, more Josh Zeman and Murder Mountain. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back right after this.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Yeah, hi. I'd like to report a bear sighting.
Location.
My backyard.
Oh, your backyard. Try telling a bear that.
I did, and this bear talked back.
Talking bear, that's rich.
No, wait, it was Smokey Bear.
Smokey? Why didn't you say so?
I did say so.
Continue.
I was burning yard waste.
No, boy.
He told me to burn legally and responsibly, and to remember that if it's too hot to touch, it's too hot to leave.
And as always, he's right. 9 out of 10 wildfires are caused by humans. That means 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented.
Yeah, I know that now.
Thanks to me.
Actually, thanks to Smokey.
As usual, the talking bear gets all the credit. Get your Smokey on. Always burn responsibly and contact your local fire department for open burning regulations. Because 9 out of 10 wildfires can be prevented. Brought to you by Smokey Bear, the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council. Learn more at smokeybear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Northern Tool and Equipment.
I got a rather serious problem over here.
All right, what are we looking at?
Cranky mother-in-law asleep on the couch in the man cave.
Dear God.
It gets worse.
That's impossible.
She's passed out on the remote.
I stand corrected.
What do I do?
Okay, I want you to grab a Torrin Big Red hydraulic bottle jack.
Okay.
Now you wedge that bad boy in under your mother-in-law and crank her up skyward.
It's working. And got the remote.
Great. Now grab that Torrin Big Red 2-ton folding shop crane and put that woman on wheels.
And away we go.
There's no problem a little horsepower can't solve. Northern Tool and Equipment.
Welcome back to After Hours AM, everybody. Back at Talk right now. I'm your host, Joel Sturgis, right along with me,
Eric Olsen and
Dr. Clarissa
And
Cole.
we are talking with our good friend and filmmaker, Josh Zeman, and he's got a great new show on Netflix. If you haven't caught it yet, you got to check out Murder Mountain. And it is really an interesting way of life that these people live in Humboldt County and, of course, the Emerald Triangle, which most people are familiar with it. It's been all over the news about the Emerald Triangle with the California legalization over the last couple of years of marijuana. But, Josh, how has the legalization destroyed the industry?
Well, I mean, that's a really good question. The problem is that all these, like, mom and pops, they were like the mom and pops, basically like families, I swear, like, grandmothers. It's like your grandmother is growing weed. Your hippie grandmother and your hippie grandfather are like growing weed for years, and the government's come after them. And like we would go and like speak to these like older folks, and they'd be like, "Yeah, we moved from San Francisco along with Bill and everybody, and we all came up here." And you would just ask them like what was it like back then, and they'd be like, "Oh, the helicopters, they came after us, they wiped everything out." And it's like you're speaking to your grandmother about how she was growing.
We used to cultivate it.
Right. And she'd be like, "Honey, go get the boys some of that weed that we grew the other year. What is that, the blue dream?" Like literally, like we didn't walk out with a pie. We walked out with weed. Like, get some of that. Like, put it
Granny's buds.
Yeah, exactly. And they're just the sweetest old people. But, these... they didn't have any long-term financial planning because they're farmers,
Sure.
So suddenly the government comes in and says, "Okay, everybody, it's legal. Now apply for your permit," and so they're like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm tired of looking over my shoulder for 25 years. Honey, let's apply for a permit." And they apply for a permit. They finally tell the government what they're doing. And then they send like an assessor out there to these farms that are literally like hours in the mountains. They went there originally because they wanted to get off the grid, and then the government is going, like the local municipality is going there and being like, "Well, you don't have a culvert, OSHA compliant bathroom over here," and it's like, what? Are you kidding?
Yeah, leave the government, to destroy everything.
Well, they're not paying, like what people don't understand too is that like people of a certain age, like that you were showing, in the documentary, like they're not paying into Social Security, right? Because they're working a job that for many, many years has been illegal. And so they don't have that Social Security safety net that people in legal professions do. So what are they supposed to do?
They got money buried. Let me tell you.
All the craziest stories of the guys who bury money and they forget.
That'd be horrible.
Or like the dude has like a heart attack. And
he knew everything where the money was.
And all the neighbors like come onto his property with like backhoes and just start digging.
Metal detectors and dogs.
He would have wanted it this way.
Yeah, this is the way you wanted
the
it.
Ex-wife shows up with a shovel and she's like, "I'm coming to get mine,"
As much as cool as it is, and the culture just seems to be way different than what we're used to. In the rest of America, there is a bad side, and that'd be the Garrett Rodriguez case.
Yes, and at this point, folks, I am going to have to sign off for reasons that have to do with my everyday job. But, Josh, I think your documentary is amazing. If you guys haven't seen it, Murder Mountain, please watch it. It's on Netflix. It is the best thing. I want you to get to the case that kind of got the ball rolling, though.
Well, Dr. Cole, thank you so much for hanging out with us this long. And, yep, absolutely. I know you have to sign off. Conflict of interest, folks, if she keeps going. And
see ya, Humboldt chick.
See ya later, Dr. Cole.
All right. Take care, you guys.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. That's now we're getting the good stuff. So here's the thing, right? The documentary series, I wish we had gotten more time to do this. It talks about all these missing people. But here's what you don't really get to know too much, unfortunately. They have more missing persons per capita, right? Mm-hmm. But they also have more people who are found per capita. And basically the situation is that all these like hippy-dippy kids or whatever go to Humboldt to like trim weed, and I don't think they're telling their parents exactly what they're doing, number one. Yeah. It's like, "Mom, I'm going to go trim weed on a farm."
Got a summer job.
Exactly. "Okay, honey." I don't think, call your father. I don't think that's happening, So I think what happens is these kids get a job, and then they're like brought up onto these mountaintop farms, and there's no cell phone service. They have no ability to get back down. And suddenly they just disappear, and the parents start to freak out, and then they call the police. So, and this happens all the time. And, there's that. I think there's also a lot of people who like want to go off the grid. There's this weird, and this is weird. You guys probably know this, but like, in places like that are really beautiful, like Alaska, like the movie Into the Wild, people who aren't 100% there, they kind of get called to the woods, and they like walk into the woods and they don't walk out.
Yeah. Yeah.
That happens, and then, but every now and then there is some violence, and that's what happened with, Garrett, where this kid basically was going back and forth, and, he's growing weed, and, he disappears, and, his parents call the police. The police are like, well, we get a lot of missing persons here, but they're usually found. And, but then what we learn tragically is that it's not just a missing persons case. It's a lot more. But I got to tell you, and you guys know from the killing season from Cropsey, I do a lot of missing person stuff.
Yes, you do. Yes,
regardless of the fact that more people are found, it's a weird thing where all these people go missing. And like the woman that you see in the show, Asha Kramer, and her mother who just drives around looking for this girl who
coming
disappears.
from Australia, by the way, to throw that in there. Just drive around.
It's so weird. She's like a Shakespearean character, and where she's just driving around looking for her daughter.
Haunted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's spooky stuff. And I think in that case, there's another thing that we didn't really get into in the series, but I think your listeners may be interested. Like, a lot of kids, they find out that marijuana, one of the negative effects of marijuana is that it seems to bring about an onset of schizophrenia in the early 20s. Yeah. And that's an interesting thing that they are just finding out about, is like this weird connection between increased high THC and schizophrenia.
Okay.
And so a lot of kids will smoke some really hardcore dope. Not a lot of kids. Some kids will smoke some really hardcore dope and then just start to go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Schizophrenia over, and then they do disappear into the woods.
Kind of like a reefer madness, if you will.
Yeah, that's like one of the negative effects, and look, you can't be Pollyanna about weed, just like you can't be Pollyanna.
No, it's not. Everything has a downside, and everything affects people differently. So, yeah, there's going to be a certain percentage that react a certain way. Yeah. There are lots of potential downsides, depression, paranoia. I mean, that's real. That's not made up, It's And it's very important, we should add, it really is important that you not, as a parent and now even a grandparent, it really is a function of age. It is not a good idea to start young, just like it's not a good idea to start drinking young. You have to let your brain develop naturally. And goodness, I wish I had.
Yeah, I listen, I tell my kid, I just came back from doing a whole show about weed, and he's like, Dad, I've got some questions, and I was like, listen, man, you got to be careful. Your brain is just developing. You cannot be smoking weed, and you have a young, just developing brain. It will affect you,
Yeah, I mean, as long as people are aware, like any other drug, alcohol has horrible side effects. Anything you do has the downside, and I would have to say, maybe partaking in marijuana a time or two in my life, I'll take that over alcohol, to be honest with you.
Right, that's the whole thing. The whole thing is okay, it's better to smoke a joint than it is drink a full six pack of beer and go driving in a car or something.
Exactly. I really believe that it's kind of weird that this drug, which is far more destructive than marijuana, is legal, but marijuana, oh my God, don't touch it. It's the devil's lettuce. It's so asinine.
Right.
I think the part that bothers me the most is the implied immorality. And you mentioned that earlier, Josh, and that's the part that bothers me the most, because it does matter what the government says. People do listen to the government, and it becomes official, and that is a top-down kind of thing. And I spent I certainly remember, I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and I remember the whole time, and this was Southern California, just being beaten over the head, about this drug. And it made me feel extremely guilty. It took me, let's put it this way. It took me decades to get over the guilt that I felt of violating, that all it was a government dictate.
Yeah. That's crazy, right? That's nuts.
It is.
And the other problem. The other problem is you and I, we all like, oh, come on, it's not that bad. Or like, come on, this is a good. So what happens is you don't believe your government. You don't trust your leaders when they're telling you this BS.
Right. You're right. Good point.
You know, and then you have kids who are like, what? You know, like, you're telling me that weed is on par with heroin? Come on. You know, you're on crack. That's not true. You know.
Well, but you're right. A lot of people do not know it is a Scheduled I narcotic, right up there with heroin.
It's crazy. So that's the problem. You have all these kind of like ironies and these hypocriticisms and all these issues that come into play, and the legality and the prohibition. And it's like a quagmire. Like, it is a serious problem. And then in the middle of it, like, we show this case of vigilante justice, you know, because the whole point was, here's the interesting thing, vigilantism, right? You know it's wrong, but like, there's a part of you which is like, okay, you do what you got to do, right?
Right. Oh, of course. Sure.
Frontier justice. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So it's shades of what's right or what's wrong, right? Same thing with weed. Shades of what's right and what's wrong. So when you put those two things in parallel to each other, the specific event against the bigger ideology, you're like, one kind of reinforces the other. Each one is asking you to question where you stand on that line between the rule of law and the rule of man.
Yeah, exactly. You're absolutely correct. And this young kid that lost his life, Garrett Rodriguez, it's such a sad tale of getting caught up to something bigger than he was, is what I really get out of that.
Tell it. We, of course, don't want to give it away. And again, we really want to encourage people to watch the show, Murder Mountain, streaming on Netflix. 6 episodes. Gots to check it out, my friends. But please do tell us what you can, maybe set it up at least. You know, what is the tale of Garrett Rodriguez?
Well, you know, he's this 29-year-old kid from Ocean Beach who goes to Murder Mountain. You know, he knows the history of the place, and he goes there to grow. He suddenly disappears, and his parents hire a private investigator and say, you know, can you help us find our son? And the private investigator kind of like goes into this no man's land, you know, of outlaws to try and figure out what's going on. They try and get the police involved, and it basically what happens, without giving it away, is that the locals, the outlaws of Murder Mountain, decide to enact frontier justice. You know, they're going to be the law, basically. And I think that's, you know, and you have to kind of see how it unfolds. It's a crazy, like, the whole point of the series is, how does this style of like Wild West behavior happen in today's world? How can this still exist?
Well,
isn't it the geography, basically? I mean, isn't that ultimately what we're talking about, the remoteness of it all?
Yeah. But like, in the continental United States, like, if you were to say this would happen in Alaska, I kind of wouldn't bat an eyelash, you know?
Yeah, I wouldn't either, because you would expect that there.
Yeah, but you're like, oh, no, this is 5 hours north of San Francisco. You're like, what? You know?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, it just shows you how defined, you know, to this day, we think of ourselves as sort of trans geography, right? Well, it doesn't matter. You can live anywhere. You can do anything. You could telecommute, right? I can do my job from the top of a mountain, all that kind of thing. But in the real world, we are still absolutely, in many ways, defined by our geography. You know, what's going on around you? What's the topography? You know, what's the elevation? What, just all of it, the weather. And we can do things to get around it, but we can't really we cannot surmount it, not yet. And when you have really rugged terrain, and this is anywhere in the world, where you have very steep mountains and lots and lots and lots of vegetation, and, you know, a fair amount, a goodly amount of precipitation, all of that comes together and it creates these really, really remote areas. And there's actually more of them in the U.S., you know, than you would realize. But the fact, right, like you're saying, the fact that it's just a few hours from San Francisco, it's just a few hours, you know, up to, well, no, Portland's farther, I was going to say, you know, like Eugene or something like that in Oregon. It is amazing and it is odd. And when people who don't live in California don't realize how big California is, and that, in fact, it has every single kind of terrain that we have in the entire country contained within that one state, all of this just sounds so odd. One of the things I'm real interested in are, because I know you don't want to give away too much about poor Garrett's tale. I'm really interested in a little more detail on the changing economics. So what's going on right now with it, and then where are people who are leaving going? How are they? Or have you talked to people who are trying to reincorporate back into, quote unquote, modern society, urban society, for example? Any of the people who have left or who are trying to leave or in the process of transitioning?
So what was the first question?
Just the changing economics of it.
Oh, right.
Are the prices coming down? How, what are people doing about all this?
So here's the interesting thing. The Rand Corporation in 1978 did a study on legalization, and they found that if you legalized weed, suddenly the bottom would drop out of the black market. In 1996, they were selling a pound of weed for $5,500.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that was the heyday. That was when it was a ton of money. Now weed is down to $1,000 a pound. Okay, wow. So you're talking about a big drop in a short amount of time. Now, add in the fact that, sure, you've got your mom and pops, but you've also got your cartels, you've got your Bulgarians, you've got a whole bunch of different minimal drug trafficking organizations, as they call it, right? Those guys are kicking money up to bigger people, and those guys are kicking money up to bigger people, right? And suddenly, what happens? You're a drug trafficking organization, and you're, a mid-level guy, and, you're supposed to be giving your $20,000 a week, and suddenly you're only giving $7,000 a week.
Yeah.
They're going to come to you and say, hey, buddy, what's going on?
Yeah.
And you're going to be like, well, the prices are dropping. And it's not just them. It's suddenly you're going to get more homelessness. Suddenly what happens is when drug trafficking organizations, when they have money streams that dry up, people freak.
Yeah.
And when we have drug trafficking organizations that when they're freaking out about money, people do stupid things. They start to shoot first, ask questions later. They start to grow even bigger to try and make that money. They move into other things. So, when they legalized weed, everybody in the world was really excited and happy, right? In California. Everybody was everybody in LA was like, finally.
Yeah,
wow.
This is great.
Yeah, exactly. And even some of the folks who had fought those wars were like, finally, honey, our dream of, a world in which everybody could smoke dope. Yay. They were excited. But most of the people in Humboldt were like, oh boy, this is not going to be good.
Yeah. It almost looks like, though, Josh, they set it up for Big Pharma.
They did. So what happened was it's inevitable. Even if they didn't set it up for Big Pharma, it's inevitable that Big Pharma is getting it. I heard Anheuser-Busch today was talking about getting into it. They're pushing out the mom and pops.
Buds for you.
They're pushing out the mom and pops. Look, you're screwed when the man tries to sell you back your dreams.
Yeah.
And that's what happened here. It's like, oh no, I've got a really bad feeling this is all going to turn real south real quick. And some of the ones that have money, they're trying to do it. They're branding. They're on Instagram. They're trying to make Humboldt Organics. There's a collective called True Humboldt that's really amazing up there, and they're banding together. But it's too much money. Basically, you had 25 hippies with bent spoons putting seeds in the ground in 1972. That has now turned into a $5.1 billion industry for the state of California, with an economy that's the 8th largest in America. The economy of California is the 8th largest in America. So even despite however you thought you can hold on, big business is waiting in the wings. And it's and it's not just Anheuser-Busch and Seagram's. It's the mid-level guys. It's the 5 lawyers from Chicago who have $5 million in disposable cash who want to come in and buy everybody out.
And God forbid Pfizer or someone like that, some huge drug conglomerate just comes in and starts buying up seized property.
Yeah. So they had a real run on the property last year. When we were up there, a farm was going for $1.2 million. you know?
Oh my gosh.
And because like everybody knew, like, oh my God, this is the opportunity. So all these, it was kind of sad, you know, like all these mom and pops were like selling their farms and getting out. Like, I was like, well, where, you know, I was the grandmother that I was speaking to before. I was like, where are you going to go? She's like, oh, I think we're going to go to Paraguay, you know, like,
wow,
like,
Paraguay.
Yeah. You know, they're just going to go off the grid someplace else. You know, it's like Mosquito Coast, you know? So, you know, but the problem in that, when you have that run in any community, like it creates weird things. Like suddenly all the social fabric of the community just gets up and leaves, you know, and then nobody cares about it. And suddenly you're like, who's that neighbor? You know, and they happen to be like a drug trafficking organization. You know? So,
I was going to say, but if all the good people leave because they're pinched out because of regulation, it only leaves the outlaws.
It's basically what happens, you know. Some, again, you know, we're speaking very much in generalizations, you know, but it is kind of sad that we felt that we were like documenting the tail end of an era, you know. And we wanted to get that down on film so that there would be a record of what was going on.
Yeah. The dying days of you know, cannabis, as it were, the way it was.
But then again, for every dying mom and pop, there is like, you know, a smart guy. There's a guy. I think it's like the Humboldt County Visitors Bureau, Cannabis Bureau, like. They are really trying to make this the Sonoma Valley of weed, where you could go up there and you can like watch these crazy videos from the 70s and like go take a tour of a farm. Like it's the coolest farms in the world to like go and hang out with like a farmer who's grown this dope and like, you know, he's like, smell this, you know, taste this, you know. It's just like, you're like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, there'd be hobby farms that you can, tourist farms. Come see how we grew our pot. Yeah, that kind of stuff. Come for the trees, stay for the bud.
It's kind of interesting how all that that was a good one, ties in, speaking of which, to the I wonder if there's a connection to the explosion in the craft beer industry. There's kind of a similar mentality there where, you know, you're carving out a little bit of a niche, because that's probably all that really will remain are these real specific narrow niches. Yeah. And I think that would be one way to survive, is to find something really specific, really narrow, and then specialize in that, because people are big. The consumers now we were in, you know, Oregon. We had to go when my wife's father died, and so we were out there almost 2 years ago now, and it was amazing, you know, to go to the dispensaries, totally legal in Oregon, where we were, and you know, all these different varieties and the names and the descriptions. I mean, as a result of all that, and that's going on to varying extents, you know, all over the country, Colorado, of course, California. Yep. So the consumer's becoming much more sophisticated and much more aware. So I think you will see some of this craft, and I'm sure it's already going on.
Yeah, it is going to be exactly like beer. Like, you know, they're going to do like huge farms in Salinas now. Like, you know, and those will be like just mega farms, you know, and you'll get weed and it'll be okay. It'll be the Marlboro of weed, the Marlboro Lights of weed.
Or the Budweiser.
Yeah, the Budweiser, you know, and it'll be like, okay, you know, that's good, you know, but then if you want your like IPA, then you're going to go, you know, maybe you're going to get a Humboldt brand, or maybe, you know, you get a Colorado brand. And then each region, you know, New Jersey's going to do it. So, you know, New Jersey, you're famous for New Jersey tomatoes. So maybe you'll have a New Jersey, you know, buy local. So you're just see this huge explosion of all these different locales and all this weed. But, you know, the story of how it all happened and the guys who fought the wars and the way in which we went after these people, and just like the full balls to the wall criminal, you know, outlawness of what was going on. Mm-hmm. That's the stuff that we want to capture before it got corporatized.
Yeah, the life, the experience of living that way. You know,
the human drama
of seeing. I mean,
drama.
Do you guys think, though, really quickly, do you guys think that 30 years from now we're going to look back at this and laugh? Like, how silly was this war to begin with?
Totally. Don't we do that with champagne.
Yes.
Don't we do that with alcohol?
Prohibition. Absolutely. You are absolutely right. And you mentioned something else that just gave me a quick idea. What really happened was the entire kind of apparatus and mindset of Vietnam was transferred over to our own people, to the seed growers.
That's the craziest part. It was like the only people who were the most affected by Vietnam were the hippies who left Haight-Ashbury and the Vietnam vets who came back and couldn't acclimate. They go to this one area, they grow weed, and the government comes after them. Nowhere else, the government doesn't come after. Like if you have a riot in a ghetto, the government does not come after you with Huey helicopters. But they do in Humboldt. You know, they did in Humboldt.
Exactly.
You know
Exactly. We're down to our last 30 seconds, Josh. So why don't you tell people where they can catch this awesome show? And will there be a season 2?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if we live. You know, I think if we show our faces back there, we might get shot. But I don't know. The Outlaws are actually very happy. So of course you can see it on Netflix. And if you want updates, you can follow me on Twitter, Josh Zeman, Zeman. And of course, you know, obviously, if you're into this type of stuff, check out The Killing Season on Amazon, and you could check out Cropsy and Killer Legends. You could see all that stuff. You just follow me on Twitter, and I'll send you links on how to find that stuff.
Very, very cool. Again, Josh Zeman, everyone, a good friend of ours and a great filmmaker. Wow, Eric, what a great show, though. I cannot stress enough how great Murder Mountain is. It's just a great show. So
the dude's a great director, man. He gets better every time.
Absolutely. Until next time, guys, take care of each other, love each other. Hey, buy some Humboldt weed. After Hours AM is a production of Midwest Radio Productions. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. And please visit www.americas-most-haunted.com.